I'm welcoming Liz Rusch today, and she's going to talk to us about her new book, which is Zee Grows a Tree. And Elizabeth is, I'm going to look at a little list here, an award-winning author who has over 20 books, which have received multiple awards, including the Golden Kite Award, Great Kirkus Reviews, the Subaru Award, Cook Prize, Green Earth Award. I could go on, but you guys can check out her bio on her website. And I just also wanted to talk about a couple of her other books, just because I'm aware of those. The one that I remember the most, and I don't know why, maybe because it was around the time that Pluto they were gonna make it not a planet, but was The Planet Hunter, and what happened to Pluto. So that was a big one for me and my memories of Liz. And then also she just recently did one that was about democracy. It's called You Call This Democracy. But also you had a crayon one, or The Day, what was that?
The Day with No Crayons.
Yeah. Yes. So I just want you to say hello to our viewers and just whatever you want to say, and then I'll ask you a few questions.
Sure. Yeah. Good to see you all. Yeah, I write fiction and nonfiction for kids and adults. I have a graphic novel. I've edited a movie script, and just love writing and words and images and the people who work on them as well.
I didn't know you had a graphic novel. What is that one called?
Yeah, it's called Muddy Max, The Mystery of Marsh Creek, and it's about a kid who he gets superpowers whenever he's covered in mud. He discovers that through the course of the novel. And his parents are total neat freaks. They don't want him to get a speck of mud on him. So there's this tension between them. And it turns out there's a dark side to the mud. So they're just trying to protect him, but they all have to come to terms with the situation.
Oh, that's fun. That's a fun story. So I'm just going to start asking you a couple questions. And I'm going to start with, tell us something unique and unusual that maybe isn't in your bio.
Yeah, well, probably the thing most related to Zee Grows a Tree is that I'm a trail runner. I've been running on the trails in Forest Park for the last 20 years. And it's where I find peace and inspiration, and is part of the inspiration for the book. I just love the evergreens of the Pacific Northwest and had always wanted to write a book about them. So I'm really excited to have this book coming out.
And that's one of the other things, is that you live in Portland, Oregon. So you're used to a lot of nature around you too. So I just wanted to share that with our viewers, that you're from Portland. So, and I'm from Portland. So that just gives us a bond. One of the other things is, and this is just a silly thing, do you like coffee or tea? Or do you have a different drink you like?
Oh, I love coffee, but it makes me a little crazy. So I drink more tea and way more water, actually.
That's probably better for you. So
I don't know. They keep trying to prove that coffee's bad for you, but they can't. So I think it probably is good for you.
But it does get you a little jittery, I know, because I drink a lot of it. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about Zee. And do you have a one of the books or the cover that you could hold up so people could see what to look for?
Yeah, let me just grab, I don't actually have a copy of it yet, but I do have the Folded and Gathered.
Okay, great. I'd love for the viewers to see what the book looks like so that they know what to buy when they go in a bookstore or look on Amazon.
Yeah, so here it is, Zee Grows a Tree. And it's the story of a girl who is born on a Christmas tree farm. And the day she's born, a Douglas fir sprouts in the nursery. And they grow up together and they face various milestones, and Zee takes care of the tree. And most Douglas fir are actually ready to be used as Christmas trees when they're 8 years old. So it follows them through the first 8 years of their lives up till she's 8, and has to decide what to do with her Christmas tree.
I love that story. It's so cute. So why did you want to write about Zee and or her tree?
Yeah, so one of the inspirations is from Izzy, one of my kids. She we will often get a permit and go get a Christmas tree from the Mount Hood National Forest. And one year when we went and we were going to cut down a tree, she found a tiny little tree that she wanted for her room, and she didn't want to cut it down. So we dug through the snow and dug through the frozen ground and scooped out the tree, and she planted it in a planter, and she had it in her room for the holidays, and then took it out and took care of it outside, and then pulled it in the next year. And this went on for several years, and she actually called her tree Chris. And so that's kind of where I got the idea behind, a child caring for a tree. That tied in with just my love of the Pacific Northwest and trees. And also the fact that when we first moved here, we would go to U-Cut Christmas tree farms. And, that was something growing up on the East Coast I never had the opportunity to do, because Oregon and Washington are like two of the biggest producers of Christmas trees actually in the world. So that's kind of a special experience that we have here, and something else that I was kind of excited to capture in a picture book, that Christmas tree farm kind of experience.
That's cool. I didn't even know that. I didn't know that Oregon, I mean, I knew they were big producers, but I didn't know they were, largest in the world. I mean, that's interesting. So is Zee? I mean, kind of.
Izzy. So kind of. I mean, they're different.
Different characters, but have some similarities.
Yeah. It's that connection between a child and a living thing is really kind of what I was capturing. And that is for sure, that's Izzy through and through. She also has, a fish and a bunny.
So maybe we'll see a
great lover of nature and its creatures.
Maybe we're going to see some fish stories and bunny stories from you too.
That's right.
So I have a question, because a lot of the people that come to my website or my blog are writers. Do you write with an intended audience in mind, or do you choose your word choice or the topic based on a certain range? Or you said you write for adults too. So is it when you pick a certain book, you go right for a certain age range, or how do you do that?
Yeah, when I'm considering a topic, one of the things that I have to decide on early on is what the age range is, because how I handle material will vary greatly depending on the age range. So for instance, I've actually written 3 books about volcanoes. And one of them, which is like a read aloud picture book, is called Volcano Rising, and it's about the creative power of volcanoes. And so, I thought that, sort of a really simple introduction to the idea of volcanoes growing and building domes and growing back after eruptions would be something really interesting and approachable for that age range. And then kind of more of a middle grade approach was a book called, which still is in print, Will It Blow? Become a Volcano Detective at Mount St. Helens. And so that's for like ages like 6 to 10 or 12. And in that one, I really talk about volcanology as if it's like detective work, which is something that really kids of that age range are interested in. And then the third book, Eruption, Volcanoes and the Science of Saving Lives, is for older kids, 10 and up. And it really talks about a group of volcanologists who travel around the world predicting volcanic eruptions so that they can evacuate people out of the way. So it's kind of like, in a way, it's like I did cradle to grave volcanoes, but right, each approach had to really fit the age range.
That's interesting, that is. So once you do the first draft, what do you do next?
Oh, lots and lots and lots of revising. When I give school visits, I often tell kids that I'm not actually a writer, I'm a reviser, because I probably spend more time revising than I do writing. I looked at my computer, under my Word files to see, like, on average, how many drafts do I have of a book that gets published? And it's about 25 drafts. So some of that is me, trying to find the best opening and the best ending. And as you said, looking at the word choice and cutting and trimming and clarifying. I also get feedback from other writers in 2 critique groups, and we'll often share material with kids as well. to get feedback and to get some insight into how my manuscript is working. And I incorporate all of those into the manuscript. And the other thing I do a lot is read it out loud. And I'm not just talking picture books, even my stuff for older readers, I read aloud several times, because I feel like that really gives you a sense of how smooth something flows, how clear it is, how easy it is to read. And often when I'm reading aloud, not only do I see what problems the manuscript has, but it often will be really obvious what the solution is. So reading aloud is also something that I do with every manuscript.
Do you read it to your children too? Are those part of the children, or do you?
Yeah, when they were younger, so now my kids are 17 and 20.
Oh, wow.
So I don't sit down and do read alouds of my manuscripts with them anymore, but I for sure did when they were younger. And also I live near Chapman Elementary School, and I've brought manuscripts in to share with students there, either in the classroom, or teachers will bring out a group to work with me, and with other schools around Portland as well.
That's funny, because I picture Izzy like small. I don't know why.
Yeah, she's 17 now. She was small. When I first had the idea, that shows how long sometimes it takes for an idea to really ripen and be published.
That's an important thing for writers to know, that it's not as quick of a process as you might think, because you might have been inspired by Izzy and it took a few years. And though we picture Izzy maybe like Zee, maybe it's not reality at all, that she's like, this little child anymore. Anyway, I think that's interesting. So
yeah, she likes to remind me that she's only a year from being an adult.
Yeah, they grow up fast. So do you use beta readers, or is that your critique group, or how do you do that?
Yeah. So I'm in 2 different critique groups, and we share writing. And then, as I said, also I like to share it with young people, especially if there's something about it, like it's like I have a book called Mario and the Hole in the Sky, which is about the Mexican-American chemist who figured out we were destroying our ozone layer. And it's a picture book. So that was one that I took to, into schools, into a 3rd grade classroom, to really make sure that, like, because I'm writing about like atmospheric science, and, am I writing about it in a way that's interesting, that they can understand.
Is that the book that you got the Green Earth Award for?
Yeah, the Green Earth and the Golden Kite Award and the Cook Prize and several others. Yeah, that book's done very well.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, because that's important. That's an important topic. So one of the questions is, do you use any promotional materials to kind of, inspire people to buy your book?
Yeah, it really varies by book. Actually, with the graphic novel I told you about, Money Max, the publisher made little temporary tattoos of mud splatters.
Oh, I like that.
Which we used at some events. I've also had publishers who have made postcards, which is really nice. If you're visiting a store, you can share those. I'm trying to think what else I've done for promotional stuff. I mean, I don't necessarily focus so much on giving things out. I like to think about, pre-COVID and hopefully post-COVID, like creating events that have really fun hands-on activities for kids, or doing events with multiple writers or illustrators, really so that there's like a value added, so that there's a reason for families to come.
Have you done anything like with OMSI, which is the Oregon Museum of Science and Industry here in Portland? I just was wondering, because you've got all these science books.
Yeah, I remember doing something early on with the Planet Hunter, the book that you mentioned earlier. And then also I did stuff with them on the Mars rovers when Curiosity was landing. They did a big event and I was there for that. So I've done hands-on activities with them and different presentations at OMSI.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I thought you might. So do you have any places that you would recommend in Portland? It could be, before or after the pandemic, because I know right now things are limited, but this can be anything. It could be a bookstore, it could be a restaurant, it could be a coffee shop. Do you have any place you would recommend to any tourists coming to Portland?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that people coming to Portland will often visit like the Japanese garden and the Chinese garden and maybe the Rose Garden, and those are all really beautiful. but it's also worth a visit to the Hoyt Arboretum. So it's up near the Japanese garden and the rose garden. But it's free and open to the public, and there are trails that go around. And what's cool about it is they'll have different, like they'll cluster, they have a bunch of trees kind of clustered together by species. So you can go like on the fir trail and see all these different fir trees and see all these different spruce trees. And it's really beautiful and, educational in a way that is really fun to take in. So that's one place I would recommend.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I love it there. We've gone up there for, different events. That's fun. So what do you do to advertise your books? Do you specifically do anything, or is it your publisher that does it?
So it's really a partnership. I mean, I maintain a website.
What is your website? I can put it down below, but
yeah,
what is your
it's elizabethrusch.com. And just you have to remember Rusch is RUSCH, elizabethrusch.com. And I'm on Facebook at, I think it's Elizabeth Rusch author. I'll have to send you the link.
Okay, I can put it in.
And I have a newsletter that I send out maybe once or twice a year. So I've been, having people subscribe to that for, several decades now. So I have, several thousand people on it. And I always try to include, writing tips, kind of cool resource information about upcoming books and upcoming events. And
how do they subscribe? Is it off of your website?
Yeah, you can just subscribe from my website. That's right.
Okay, so I just have a couple silly kind of questions. One is, what are your top favorite TV shows?
Well, I've been watching way too much TV.
Like all of us, like all of us.
So, like a newer one that I really liked was The Queen's Gambit. That's the woman chess players, fantastic. The one that I've been rewatching is Sherlock, which is the kind of Sherlock Holmes piece with Benedict Cumberbatch as Sherlock. And that one's really great. Actually, another one along that same vein, which I'm rewatching, is called Elementary, which is also a Sherlock story, but it's set in New York City. And Watson in Elementary is actually a woman, which is really cool.
Oh, I like that.
And then the other one that's really kind of weird and quirky that I really love that you probably haven't heard of is called 6 Feet Under. And it's about a family who runs a funeral home in their house, and every episode starts with someone dying, and then that funeral is kind of the story, but then there's usually a theme to that person's life, and then that's also kind of interwoven with the family story. So it's a little dark, but also just beautiful, really beautifully done.
It sounds like you like mysteries. I mean, because of your books, it just sounds like you like research and mysteries and something that makes you really think, listening to you.
Yeah, creativity, creative approaches to ideas, creative connections I really like. Discovery. And I think of the world as being interesting and curious and mysterious.
So you're kind of like, I think that you have a childlike interest, or which is maybe why you write so much for children. I think that's fascinating. So what is your favorite season of the year?
Well, it changes all the time just because I love the outdoors. I spend a lot of time outdoors in addition to trail running. I hike and bike and camp and backpack and kayak and all that kind of stuff. So I really love all 4 seasons, but I'm really looking forward to this summer. I'm looking forward to sunshine. I'm looking forward to being outside with family and friends, and I'm looking forward to swimming. I'm looking forward to being in the water.
Well, that's good. That's good. I mean, I'm looking forward to that too. So my last question is going to be, what book could you read over and over again?
Yeah, so there's a writer for adults. His name is John Mcphee, and he's written a number of nonfiction books and has also been a writer for The New Yorker for a long time. And what I love about his work, and the book that I'm going to suggest is called The John Mcphee Reader. And it's basically a sampling of his writing on a bunch of different topics. And what I love about his work is that he really thinks about how to structure his essays kind of based on the material. So like when he's writing about someone at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, it's called A Room Full of Hovings. And he writes about this man's Hoving's life as if you're like going through a gallery of his life. So I find his approach to structure to be really, really creative and really engaging, and is kind of what I strive for in my writing for young people. So that's one that I can revisit again and again. And if you haven't read any John Mcphee, I strongly suggest it, because it's kind of the best of nonfiction. It reads like fiction, but it's even better because the structure is so creative.
I like that. I do read a lot of, or I have read a lot of David Sedaris, which is like little essays, but not with all that structure. I mean, so that's interesting. I do want to give away one of your books. So when is it coming out?
Yeah, March 16th. So
right around the corner.
Soon. And yeah, it's good because it's the kind of book I think is going to have some legs. It's about a farming situation, and so that's great for the spring. But it's also, I think, going to be a great holiday and gift book, kind of different, not focused so much on Santa and gift giving, but on Christmas tree farms and relationship of a child caring for a living being.
I love that. I love that. So I'm going to ask people to comment down below in my blog, and I will use a randomized number caller and pick a winner, and then I will just let people know. And then I will send the book from Amazon directly to them so that they don't have to go to the bookstore. So that if we're still locked down and you can't get out, then you can still get the book. And I just want to say thank you to Liz Rusch. We really appreciate you here. And I just love to hear your story. And I'm so excited to see Zee.
Oh, thanks. Thanks so much, Kimbra.
Thank you. Bye.